All right, welcome back everybody for part two of section three. We will be finishing off the notes here in a little bit. It won't take super long, so please bear with me. So we left off here talking about how Republicans will easily win the election, Dwight Eisenhower will be the president, and Republicans will maintain control of Congress in 1952. So the Eisenhower years will take place from 1952 to 1960. Yes, Dwight Eisenhower does get reelected in 1956, where he serves out the remainder of his second term. Now, Eisenhower will be focused on modern republicanism. Um, and this modern republicanism will be Eisenhower's main thoughts. Though the Democrats do make a comeback in Congress in 1956, Eisenhower will still be a relatively successful president. Modern republicanism was conservative on government spending, but liberal on human issues. So, in other words, they want to reduce government spending and government influence in the economy, but they are still going to be focused on human issues and creating different programs and needs to help the people out. So Eisenhower will try to slow the growth of federal government by limiting presidential power and increasing the authority of the states. Ike, as he is nicknamed, will support business by reducing taxes, cutting spending, and balancing the budget for the government. Um, and so, if you're going to reduce taxes, you also have to cut spending in order to create that balanced budget. Ike will also support corporate America by giving more power to the states to work with business and to avoid competition from the federal government. So Ike is going to be very supportive of businesses in the United States and corporate America. And also, Eisenhower will support the New Deal commitment to safeguarding the economy by extending the Social Security and raising the minimum wage. So, Social Security will be extended, and he's also going to raise minimum wage as were both promised under the New Deal. And remember, the New Deal was FDR's program, whereas the Fair Deal belonged to Truman. So please do not get those confused. And so, as Soviet advances create fear for growing technology gap, Congress and Eisenhower will respond with the National Defense Education Act of 1958. This will provide several things, mainly three main ones. First one, money to improve the teaching of science and math. So you guys always complain about science and math. And why do we have to learn it? Well, you have to learn it because, well, the National Defense Education Act of 1958 says so. In order to try to shorten up this technology gap between the United States and the Soviets, the United States government will dump a lot of money into the betterment of teaching of science and math because when we can teach kids science and math more effectively, then we'll be able to shorten this technology gap. Also, the government's going to provide low-cost loans to students who are willing to become teachers. Um, and so this was due to a teacher shortage at the time. And if we want to have more effective, well, the government will provide low-cost loans to these college students who become teachers. However, just for those of you that may be thinking about going into education in the future, these loans no longer exist. And funds for the construction of science and foreign language facilities. Um, in order to better teach math and science, well, we need to construct better science facilities for the government. So that way they can come up with their new technologies, improve on our rocket designs, things like this. And the importance of foreign language facilities would be that more or less training government employees to be able to speak different languages and be able to better communicate with people in other regions of the world. It kind of makes the United States seem like we care a little bit more about them if we are able to speak their own language. Also, something to note, not to deal with the National Defense Education Act of 1958, but in 1959, the United States will gain its 49th and 50th states. So both the states of Alaska and Hawaii will be elected in 1950 well, not elected, but will be added to the United States as actual states instead of territories in 1959, allowing them to vote in the 1960 election. And this might not seem like a huge deal because they're not really worth that many electoral votes. But in the grand scheme of things, they'll have more of an impact on both Congress, um, both the House and the Senate, with the different diversity that they add to it. And we'll talk more about that in another chapter. I know I'm very famous for saying that. And we will be talking about it coming up when we start talking about the civil rights movement and the other rights movements. So, your homework today is to complete the Google form that is attached to the video in the description. Especially, it will be attached to this part 2 video. You also need to complete questions 26 through 38 in the question packet. So please make sure you're staying caught up on the question packet with this additional week off of school that we had announced on Monday. Um, I'm not quite sure how we're going to be turning everything in yet, but please stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me.